A warm afternoon sun settled over Miami, casting golden reflections across the coastal street where Ariana Blake quietly rolled her wheelchair forward. At only 18, she carried a world that felt heavier than her fortune. Being a billionaire heiress had never protected her from loneliness or the ache of watching others walk freely while she remained confined to metal and motors. That day, she slipped away from her mansion for fresh air, wanting to feel normal. But halfway down the block, her custom electric wheelchair jerked, sputtered, and came to a sudden stop. Panic fluttered in her chest as cars flowed past without noticing her struggle. Ariana touched the controls repeatedly, hoping the chair would restart, but the screen flickered and died. Her heart dropped. Technology had always been her lifeline, but now it betrayed her at the worst moment. She looked around for help, unsure who to call. The street was lined with small shops, a cafe, and one old auto garage with open doors. Inside, she could hear the faint sound of tools clinking and a man humming to himself. For a moment, she hesitated, embarrassed to ask for help yet again, but she had no choice. She took a deep breath and waited, hoping the mechanic inside might notice. Liam Carter wiped his hands on a rag as he finished tightening a bolt under a sedan. At 27, he lived simply, with no fame, no fortune, and barely enough money to keep the garage open. But his heart was steady, and his skills sharper than anyone gave him credit for. When he glanced outside, he saw her, an elegant young girl, stranded in a wheelchair, trying not to look distressed. Something in her eyes drew him out instantly. He didn't see her wealth or her beauty. He just saw someone who needed help. Without thinking twice, he stepped outside and walked toward her with calm confidence. Ariana's breath caught when she saw Liam approaching. Most people approached her with hesitation or curiosity, either intimidated by her status or fascinated by her disability. But Liam's expression was simple, kind, and almost peaceful. "Looks like this thing's giving you trouble," he said gently, crouching beside the chair. Ariana blinked in surprise at his tone. No one had spoken to her like that in years, as if she were just a regular girl on a regular day. "It just stopped working," she whispered. Liam nodded calmly and examined the wiring. Beneath the armrest, his fingers moving with practiced precision. As Liam worked, Ariana found herself watching him closely. He wasn't in a rush, nor was he awkward around her wheelchair. She noticed little things, like how he hummed softly while checking each connection, how focused he remained, and how he never once made her feel helpless. She felt strangely comfortable. The sun warmed her face, and the scent of motor oil blended with the salty ocean breeze. For the first time that day, her anxiety faded. Liam looked up with a small, reassuring smile. "Good news," he said, "just a loose connector, nothing serious." His voice was steady, soothing. Within minutes, Liam snapped the connector back into place, tightened 2 screws, and checked the battery feed. The control screen flickered back to life. Ariana gasped softly, surprised by how easily he solved something her technicians often struggled with. "Try it now," Liam said, stepping back slightly but staying close. Enough to catch the chair if it jolted. She pressed the control, and the wheels moved smoothly again. Relief washed over her so strongly she almost laughed. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling with sincere gratitude. Liam simply shrugged. "Happy to help," he replied, as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. Ariana reached for her purse, intending to offer payment, something she assumed he would accept gratefully. But Liam raised his hand, shaking his head. "No payment," he said firmly. "You were stuck. Anyone would help." She stared at him in disbelief. Anyone rarely helped her without expecting something. People saw her last name, Blake, and suddenly treated her like a walking opportunity. But this man saw none of that. For the first time in months, she felt seen not as a billionaire, not as a disabled girl, but simply as Ariana. The simple kindness warmed her more than the sun ever could. The moment felt unexpectedly meaningful. Ariana hesitated, unsure how to end the interaction. She didn't want to just leave, but she had no excuse to stay. "Can I thank you somehow?" she asked softly. Liam smiled, shaking his head again. "Just stay safe," he answered. But as he turned to walk back toward the garage, Ariana felt something tug inside her, an instinct she couldn't ignore. "Wait," she called. He paused and glanced over his shoulder. "I'd like to come back," she said quietly, surprising even herself. "If that's okay." Liam studied her face for a moment before nodding gently. As Ariana rolled away with her repaired chair, her mind buzzed with thoughts she couldn't explain. She had been helped many times in her life, but this felt different, genuine, uncomplicated, real. She replayed Liam's calm voice, the way he treated her without judgment, and the sincerity in his refusal to take money. It made her curious about him, more than she expected to be. At the same time, Liam watched her leave, unaware of the future fate had just set in motion. For now, it was simply a brief encounter between two strangers, yet powerful enough to change both of their lives forever. The next morning, Liam was tightening bolts on an old pickup truck when he heard the soft hum of a familiar electric motor outside. He turned, surprised to see Ariana rolling toward the garage with a shy smile. She looked different today, more confident, more hopeful. Liam wiped his hands and stepped forward. "You came back," he said, his tone warm but genuinely surprised. Ariana nodded. "I wanted to," she replied quietly. For someone who lived surrounded by hundreds of employees, she felt oddly nervous speaking to this humble mechanic. He made her feel grounded, something she had never experienced in her world of wealth. Ariana explained that she wanted him to examine her entire wheelchair system, not just the broken connector from yesterday. She hesitated, unsure how he would respond. Liam blinked, surprised by the request but not unwilling. "If you trust me with it, I'll do my best," he said simply. Trust. That word lingered between them. She nodded softly, because she did trust him, more than she trusted the expensive engineers who worked for her family. Liam gently guided her inside the garage, clearing a space near his workbench. The warm scent of metal and grease filled the air, strangely comforting instead of intimidating. Once inside, Liam carefully examined the wheelchair structure, checking wires, joints, power distribution, motors, and the exoskeleton supports designed to stabilize Ariana's legs. He noticed flaws immediately: overworked parts, poor weight, distribution, and inefficient battery routing. Ariana watched him quietly, her fingers resting on her lap. She admired how focused he was. Unlike her doctors, he didn't talk over her or treat her like a fragile patient. Instead, he explained each problem patiently as he worked. A chair is powerful," he said, "but it's fighting against your body instead of helping it." She listened intently, impressed by his understanding. While Liam worked, Ariana talked more than she planned. She told him how, despite being born into unimaginable wealth, she often felt like a prisoner in her own home. Her parents tried to protect her, but ended up isolating her. She explained how the world only saw her name, never her heart. Liam listened quietly, offering nods and soft responses. He didn't judge her pain or treat her differently because of her wealth. In return, she asked about his life. He told her about growing up poor, fixing machines since childhood, and dreaming of one day designing technology that could actually help people. Their worlds were opposites, yet their hearts oddly aligned. As the afternoon sunlight streamed into the garage, Liam began sketching modifications on a notepad. Ariana watched him draw a new model of a supportive exoskeleton attachment, something more flexible, lightweight, and responsive. "This might help distribute the weight differently," he said, "so your legs can attempt more controlled movement." Ariana's heartbeat quickened. Doctors had told her years ago that her lower body lacked the strength for standing, let alone stepping. Yet here was Liam, offering a possibility she'd long buried. "Do you think it could work?" she whispered. Liam looked up, meeting her eyes. "I won't promise a miracle," he said softly, "but I promise to try." Ariana stayed beside him for hours as he crafted the early version of the attachment using spare parts, reinforced joints, and custom wiring. Every few minutes he asked for her input: how heavy something felt, whether a strap pulled too tight, whether a joint felt uncomfortable. Her voice mattered. Her opinion shaped the design. It was the first time anyone had treated her as a partner in her own mobility. When he gently fitted the prototype to her chair, her chest tightened with anticipation. The room felt warmer. The air felt heavier. She wasn't sure whether she feared disappointment or desperately hoped for success. When the device was finally installed, Liam knelt beside her, explaining how it worked. "This won't make you walk on its own," he said gently, "but it might support your legs enough to let them try to respond." Ariana swallowed hard, her fingers trembling, slightly. "I want to try," she said. Liam nodded and placed his hands lightly on her arms, steadying her. He guided her through the first steps, activating the motors, shifting weight, controlling the knee, stabilizers. Ariana felt something unusual in her legs, a faint, weak, almost forgotten sensation. Her breath caught. It wasn't strong, but it was real. She felt something. Her legs trembled violently at first, and she gasped in both fear and awe. Liam held her gently but firmly, reassuring her that he wouldn't let her fall. She could hear her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Sweat formed on her palms, but beneath the fear, something powerful awakened. Hope. Genuine, living hope. Tears blurred her eyes. "I can feel it," she whispered. Liam tightened his grip just slightly, proud and moved. "That's your strength," he murmured. Ariana had not taken a real step since she was 5 years old. Feeling even a spark of life in her legs overwhelmed her completely. She sank back into her chair, exhausted but glowing with a mix of joy and disbelief. Liam crouched in front of her, smiling softly. "You did amazing," he said. "Your legs responded. That means there's something to build on." Ariana covered her mouth, trying not to cry again. "I can't believe this," she whispered. Liam reached out and lightly touched her hand, not romantically but comfortingly. "You're stronger than you think," he told her. Ariana felt warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she had long been deprived of. Someone believed in her, not because she was wealthy, but because she was capable. When it was time for her to leave, Ariana felt different from the girl who arrived earlier. She felt lighter, hopeful, and deeply connected to this humble man who believed in possibilities others had dismissed. "Thank you for today," she said softly. Liam shook his head. "You don't thank me yet," he replied with a teasing smile. "We're just getting started." She smiled back, knowing he meant every word. As she rolled out of the garage and into the fading afternoon light, she carried something far more precious than repaired. Machinery. She carried the beginning of a miracle, and Liam, watching her leave, knew this was only the start of a journey that would change both their lives forever. The morning sun rose slowly over Miami, painting the sky with soft oranges and pinks as Ariana arrived at Liam's garage for what both of them knew would be their most important session yet. Today wasn't just another adjustment or test run. Today was the day Liam believed Ariana might take her first true step in 13 years. The thought alone made her heart tremble inside her chest. Liam greeted her with a gentle smile, though she could see the careful excitement in his eyes. He had spent the entire night working on the final adjustments, making sure every strap, motor and support was perfectly aligned for this moment. Liam guided her inside and prepared the upgraded exoskeleton attachment he had crafted with so much dedication. It looked sleeker, stronger, and more responsive than the prototype she had used before. As he double-checked every bolt and connection, Ariana's breath grew shallow. She wasn't afraid of failing. She was afraid of hoping too much. For years, doctors had told her the same cold truth: she would never walk. But Liam had never said never. He believed in possibilities, not predictions. That belief alone gave her strength she didn't know she had. Each time he secured a strap around her waist or tightened a support near her knees, she felt her courage growing. Once the device was attached, Liam stepped back slightly, giving Ariana a moment to settle. She gripped the armrests of her chair, her fingers trembling. "Are you ready?" he asked softly, not wanting to rush her. Ariana took a long, shaky breath before nodding. Liam positioned himself beside her, one hand lightly on her back, the other ready to stabilize the exoskeleton. Slowly, he guided her through the activation sequence. Motors hummed quietly as the support system awakened, like a sleeping giant stirring back to life. The faint vibration along her legs made her inhale sharply. Even that small sensation felt like a miracle. Ariana pushed down on the handles of her chair, shifting her weight forward as Liam instructed. The exoskeleton began lifting her, gently, slowly, steadily. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. Inch by inch she rose from the chair, her legs trembling like weak branches in the wind. Liam stayed close, murmuring encouragement. "I've got you," he said softly. "You're not alone." When she finally reached a full standing position, her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't stood this tall since she was 5 years old. The world looked different from here, bigger, brighter, overwhelming. Tears streamed down her cheeks before she even realized she was crying. But standing wasn't their goal. Walking was. Liam gently placed his hands on her arms again, supporting her balance. "Whenever you're ready," he whispered. Ariana closed her eyes, gathered every piece of courage inside her, and then shifted her left foot forward. For a terrifying second, she felt nothing, no strength, no certainty. But then the exoskeleton responded, guiding her movement with controlled force. Her foot touched the ground. She gasped. Then she moved the other foot, guided by Liam's steady hands. One step, then another. Very small, very shaky, but real. Ariana broke into sobs as she realized what she had just done. She had walked. Liam held her tightly as she cried, overwhelmed by the moment. Even he felt tears burning his eyes, though he blinked them away. He had never seen anyone fight so hard for a single step. The sound of Ariana's sobs filled the garage, raw and echoing, mixing with the hum of the exoskeleton motors. She clung to Liam's arms for support. I did it," she choked out between sobs. "You did," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You did that, Ariana." In that moment, it didn't matter that he was poor and she was wealthy. They were simply two souls witnessing a miracle together. After several minutes, Liam gently helped her sit back in the wheelchair. Ariana felt drained, her muscles weak, her face damp with tears, but she carried a glow that no exhaustion could dim. Her heart felt lighter, full of gratitude and emotion. Liam knelt in front of her, checking her legs carefully to make sure the exertion hadn't caused strain. "You're okay," he said softly. "You did everything right." Ariana looked at him, her eyes filled with awe. "You gave me something no one else could," she murmured. "You gave me hope." Liam shook his head gently. "Hope was already inside you," he replied. "I just helped you find it." Word of Ariana's breakthrough spread faster than either of them expected. By the next day, reporters gathered outside her mansion, desperate to learn about the billionaire heiress who suddenly took a step after more than a decade in a wheelchair. But Ariana refused every interview. She didn't want the story to become about fame or fortune. She wanted the truth to remain pure. A poor mechanic had believed in her when the world had given up. Eventually, she agreed to make a single public statement. She stood, slow, supported, trembling, and said, "A miracle happened because someone saw me as a person, not a disability." His name is Liam Carter. Liam's life changed overnight. Ariana's family offered him a full engineering scholarship. Investors reached out to him, and people began calling him a genius mechanic. But Liam didn't care about fame. He only cared about continuing the work. He started. With Ariana's help, he built a mobility research workshop, small, humble, but filled with passion. Together, they created devices to help others like her, children, veterans, elderly patients who had lost hope. Ariana visited the workshop daily, moving slowly but independently with her exoskeleton's support. Each step she took reminded her of the moment Liam changed her world forever. As months passed, Ariana's strength grew. She walked farther, stood longer, and relied less on her wheelchair. She and Liam spent countless hours together, not because of her therapy, but because they had become deeply connected. They talked about life, dreams, fears, and the strange twist of fate that brought them together. One evening, standing under the soft glow of the workshop lights, Ariana whispered, "You didn't just help me walk, Liam, you helped me live." Liam smiled, touched her hand, and replied, "And you helped me believe. My work matters." Together they knew their story didn't end with a miracle. It began with one.